Welcome. You are listening to the Play Big Queen podcast. This is for you if you are a woman who is an entrepreneur, business owner, professional, leader, or someone who is deeply committed to personal growth, self-improvement, transformation, and living authentically. This is especially for you if you have an invisible disability, whether you are diagnosed, undiagnosed, self-diagnosed, or late diagnosed, and you are working on reclaiming your neurodivergent identity, rebuilding confidence, learning what works for your unique brilliance while breaking free from small people-pleasing conditioning. If you are a visionary change maker interested in advancing your leadership and creating success on your terms, and you want to leave a legacy, if you are navigating disability or neurodiversity as an individual or as an ally, and you are looking for a supportive and inclusive environment to thrive, then this is for you. I am your hostess, Kate Bailey. I am the Play Big Queen. My name is my title and a command for all women. Play Big Queen. I invite you to claim this title for yourself and coronate your Play Big self too, if it serves you. I am a business and embodiment mentor working with women who are ready to rise the fuck up and be your bold, beautiful, sexy ass self, start and grow your big, bold vision, and claim that you too get to have your boldest desires. I am the creatrix of Kate Bailey LLC, which provides coaching services, educational courses, products, and experiences that promote success in neurodiversity advocacy, women's empowerment, embodiment, entrepreneurship, and business to serve women on their transformational journey. To learn more about my company offerings and to get on my email list, go to xxxkatebailey.com. If you would like to learn more about my work, my personal values, my mission, and my community, make sure you catch the last 5 minutes of this episode to go deeper and learn so much more. On this podcast, sometimes we will have guests. Sometimes I'll do solo episodes, but every single time you listen, you will expand. So get ready. It's a new era for women on the Play Big path. Long may we reign.
And I don't know, you were just like all over the place. And I'm like, why can't my daughter see how good she is at what she does?
I could see how good I was, but I probably needed a mentor. And that all over the place stuff is called undiagnosed ADHD.
No, I tried as a mother. I was so proud of all your accomplishments in these certain areas that I just felt like, oh my God, she's just so phenomenal. And I just attributed it to, you just didn't want to listen to your mother.
That recording you just heard was me on the phone with my mom last year, talking about some of my skills as a writer, a designer, and what it was like for her to be a parent to a daughter with undiagnosed ADHD in the 80s and the 90s. Now, what you didn't hear was what it was like for her as a parent when you don't have the resources your kid needs, because the neurodiversity movement wasn't a thing that was common knowledge when I was growing up. All over the place, a phrase, a spell, a hex that took me out of my power for years until I finally learned to own it. I know my other ADHD women can deeply relate to this episode. What happens when we allow ourselves to go all over the place? When we allow ourselves the dignity of our unique process, when we truly let how we work and how we embody our unmasked neurodivergent selves be unapologetically untamed. Welcome, my brilliant Play Big Queens. Welcome back. Today's episode is something really special. I'm sharing pieces of my heart, my bloodline, my creative legacy, and how all of this ties into the way we, as neurodivergent women, can radically reclaim our power through entrepreneurship, embodiment, and living life turned on and untamed. This episode is about giving you permission to be all over the place, permission to find out what happens when you work with your brain instead of against it, permission to see your wild, sensual, rebellious nature, not as a flaw, but as your fiercest asset. I am sharing something I have dreamed about for years, the launch of my luxury shoe design through Tarantate Shoes. Radical transparency and authenticity, always my core values. And because of that, I think it's important to name that before I was a leadership mentor or a business and embodiment coach, I was, and I still am, at my core, an ADHD entrepreneur, which means I need different tools, and my path does not look linear. It is a beautiful and wild mosaic of creative explosions, half-finished projects that suddenly bloom months later, bursts of dopamine that connect seemingly unrelated secrets to the universe and carry me across entire mountains, and then crashes that demand softness, space, taking the next small right step, and starting again. And this is when I am regulated and at peace. This is my baseline. And you know what? That is not wrong. It is not a failure. It is not a trauma response. It is a pattern of genius. We don't need to subscribe to the self-limiting ideas of the starving artist or the designer diva, but when the shoe fits, we strut our fucking stuff in it. We own it on the runway of life, wearing our unique gifts and our hearts on our sleeves. We are not broken for needing multiple passions, novelty, movement, and deep emotional connection to our work. Our brains are wired for spontaneity, creativity, and instinct. And when we stop believing that is a bad thing, when we stop fighting that, when we actually honor it and learn to have a healthy relationship with this type of energy and this unique dopamine cycle, that's when the real magic happens. So today, if you feel like you need it, here is your reminder. Permission to be all over the place. Permission to trust your unique process, and permission to know that the way you work is sacred and powerful. In the coaching industry, we've all heard the mindset saying, what you focus on expands. But ADHD isn't a lack of focus. It's a lack of filter. And we focus on many things at once, which can be overwhelming at times. It can overload our sensory processing. It also means that we are expanding many things at the same time. One of my biggest personal breakthroughs in my own process was realizing that I could spark dopamine through tactile, sensual, and embodied creation. Example, when I do schoolwork now at Arizona State University, where I'm studying digital audiences and data analytics, especially when I am struggling to stay engaged through dry coursework like Google Analytics certifications, I coach myself the way I coach my clients. I allow myself to do multiple things at once, to design and do my homework, so I'm able to study, so I'm able to listen. I design luxury graphics with clean, minimal, high-end design. And graphic design has become my anchor through the whirlwind of information overload that comes with college. Some people need to move in order to learn. I need to design. Specifically, I need to arrange objects. I need to create. I need to touch. And I need to play visually. But instead of forcing my mind into a mold that didn't fit, like sitting still and just reading a book, I built rituals that honored my instincts. Visual stimming, sensory beauty, channeling the bold women I descend from. You know, sometimes when it looks like we are not listening at all, especially ADHD and autistic people, we are actually listening with our whole self engaged, entirely present, and making massive connections in a flow state where it can only be described as channeling. And that's when the first designs for Tarantate Shoes were born. I was side stimming and window shopping, in between designing and listening to my textbook, and I discovered a company called Alive Shoes. This is an innovative platform connecting designers directly to the world's best shoe artisans in La Marche, Italy. La Marche is called the Shoe Valley, with small, family-run factories crafting luxury leather goods for over a century. Working with Alive Shoes, founded in 2013 by Luca Botticelli, Marco Ferroni, and Michele Torresi, lets emerging designers create and launch their own lines without traditional barriers. Now, this is definitely not a plug for Alive Shoes. They're not perfect, and not everyone has a good experience, especially entrepreneurs who go into selling product merchandise without understanding what really goes into bringing a product to market. But for me, someone who has 22 years in design, but not yet fashion design, someone who has been in entrepreneurship since I was a child and is currently studying marketing analytics. For me, this is the perfect testing ground. And I love the name because I want women who wear my shoes to feel alive as well. This is low risk, high craftsmanship, a foot in the door, literally. Now, there's a lot that goes into entrepreneurship, many variables that a lot of people don't understand until they try it for themselves. It is not easy, and in traditional entrepreneurship, especially in the early stages, you have to test the market, test for demand, see if there's an actual market for what you're selling, or if you're able to create a market. You have to have marketing skills, and you need to see if you have a viable product or brand. It does not have to be perfect, and you shouldn't overinvest in the beginning. It's okay to be lo-fi, bootstrapped, and basic where needed. And personally, knowing what I know in business, I'm not going to build out my own shoe factory and supply chain to test out this brand if it doesn't make sense. So this company is perfect for me. But for those listening and those just getting started in entrepreneurship, you would be wise to leverage the different types of capital that you do have to get your skin in the game. In entrepreneurship, you must understand capital. Yes, capitalism is evil in so many different ways, but it is the fishbowl we all swim in. It is the water and air we breathe. So unless you have some plan to opt out of capitalism completely, there are different types of capital that you should know about that you can leverage. There's financial capital, so money, social capital, so relationships in your network, human capital, so skills and expertise, emotional capital like resilience and leadership, symbolic capital like reputation and credibility, intellectual capital like ideas, cultural capital like style, knowledge, and cultural fluency. Most entrepreneurs don't start with financial capital. They start with cultural, social, and human capital, and they build the rest over time. If you've got a lot of money to play with, you got a trust fund, that's okay too. Good people with great money do amazing things. But if you're starting with like social or cultural capital, you should know a little bit more about it, right? So cultural capital is a term coined by sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, and it refers to the non-financial assets that grant social mobility or advantage, like education, style, language, or social skills. But not everyone's cultural capital is valued equally. It depends on how society views your background, your look, or your associations. And that is important for everything we're talking about today. Speaking of cultural capital and how patriarchal conditioning has always tried to suppress the passions of women, I want to share a family story with you, one that is close to my heart and until now has essentially been private since the last time it went public on January 9th, 1929 in the New York Daily News. There was a published article, and the title was "Lovelorn Girl Writes Suicide Note, Vanishes." This was the story about my grandmother's sister, Mary Piazza, a 15-year-old girl from Little Italy. She had fallen in love with a boy named Ralph Esposito. Their young love was passionate, intense, overwhelming. When their families separated them, Ralph, like so many young men, moved on. But Mary was heartbroken. She felt she had no future without her love. She borrowed a few cents from Ralph in a final goodbye, bought poison, and left behind a love letter. "Darling Ralph, I am in trouble, and I want to end it all. I love you, dear, and I hope you find another Mary like me someday who will love you the way I do." Mary dressed herself in her white confirmation dress, asking her relatives almost prophetically, "Don't I look like a bride?" And then Mary disappeared into the streets of Little Italy. A general alarm was issued. Searches went on for days. We don't know what happened to her after that. The source is from my family and the New York Daily News on Wednesday, January 9th, 1929. This story broke my heart when I first read it, but it also revealed something bigger to me. Mary's grief was not a weakness. It was a natural, big, passionate expression that had no safe place to land. Patriarchal society tells girls, feel, but not too much. Love, but not too loudly. Desire, but only if it's convenient for others. Girls were taught that passion was dangerous, that their bodies, emotions, and sexuality had to be controlled, denied, and suppressed. At the same time, they received messages about how marriage was essential for their survival. Mary, and thousands of girls like her, were denied rites of passage into their sensual, powerful womanhood. Instead of being taught to channel their desires into creation, leadership, art, or rebellion, they were trapped. And sometimes the body says no in the only language it can, in disappearance, in dance, in longing, in loss. One of the shoes for the Tarantate line is a ghostly white and silver playful leather sneaker called Nolita, named after the neighborhood north of Little Italy, where the spirit of my great aunt, the lovelorn Mary, likely still roams today. Nolita is a love letter to Mary Piazza and to every girl who was once told her feelings were too much, or that her love was too wild. That is why discovering the Tarantate women of southern Italy felt like a homecoming. If you've been here a while, you know I'm a third-generation Italian, Sicilian, American woman who was raised in New York. My mother was an Italian seamstress. She worked at Lilette's Bridal in Baldwin with her friend, and later they bought the store that they worked at. She was the first woman in my immediate family to own her own business. My traditional grandfather didn't understand why a woman wanted to be a business owner, but she did it anyway. And it laid a foundation for me witnessing women in entrepreneurship. My mother later sold the store when she got cancer, but the imprint had already been made. I was already an entrepreneur. My grandmother lived in Little Italy with her siblings and with Mary. My family roots run deep. Caserta, south of Rome, where my grandfather Felix is from. Partana, south of Palermo, where my grandmother lived on an olive farm. In one of my electives at Arizona State University, I took a class called Dance in Global Cultural Context, and we were asked to research a dance from our own heritage. That's when I met the Tarantate, and when I did, something clicked on a cellular level. For 5 years before that, I had already been on a journey of somatic healing, unmasked movement, and dance rituals, practicing becoming authentic in my movement and liberated in my sensuality. I talked to family members while I researched this project. My mom's cousin told me she discovered pictures of women with tambourines. And when I first started researching the Tarantate, one name kept coming up over and over again, and that was Alessandra Belloni. She is an internationally renowned singer, dancer, percussionist, and healing artist, and a woman who is both an expert on and dedicated to preserving the sacred traditions of the Tarantate. She was born in Rome, where she was drawn from a young age to the drumming, singing, and ecstatic dance rituals of southern Italy. Over decades, Belloni did what few dared to do. She recognized the deep feminine, erotic, and spiritual power encoded in the Tarantate dances, and she reclaimed them not as superstition, but as sacred embodiment practices. She also shared that the women who danced the Pizzica Tarantella, the spider dance, were not sick. They were not possessed by the spider bite. They were reclaiming their bodies, their sexuality, and their suppressed life force energy through ritual movement and rhythm. During the Middle Ages, up until the 19th century, women who experienced overwhelming emotional, sexual, or societal pressure would enter these wild dances. They danced fast to a pulsing drum rhythm, believed to be a cure after this symbolic spider bite. But really, beyond the folklore, what was happening was young women were experiencing the onset of puberty. These were young women whose bodies, emotions, and desires were suddenly policed and repressed by society. The dance, fierce, rhythmic, endless, became their rebellion. It was a sanctioned, communal eruption that sometimes happened in the town squares in Italy. And it was an expression of grief, sensuality, anger, longing, and defiance. And most of all, it was an expression of erotic liberation. Yes, erotic is about the sexual. And also, the word eros comes from love. Essentially, when we talk about erotic liberation, we are talking about freeing that which you love, to find your entire range of emotions pleasurable, to revel in the anger, the grief, to be a woman who owns all the parts that society says we should be ashamed of, to find the yes within ourselves and to say yes to ourselves is embodied erotic liberation. And the Tarantate women would dance for hours or even days. They'd dance to a fast rhythm accompanied by tambourines. Men were included and often played music. And the women would dance and dance for hours and days until they collapsed and were symbolically healed. But we all know it wasn't an illness. It was a reclamation. It was a way to say, in a very patriarchal society, you may control my body, my desire, even my soul, but you will never tame me. Tarantate Shoes were born as a living embodiment of that same spirit. The Tarantate were girls and women who erupted into wild, frenzied dances at puberty, reclaiming their rage, grief, and sensuality through embodied ritual. Society called it tarantism, hysteria caused by a spider bite. It wasn't, we all know, it was a rebellion. It was a sacred eruption as hot as Mount Etna herself. It wasn't madness. It was an awakening. It was an aliveness. And it still lives in our blood as Southern Italian and Sicilian women. Some of my earliest memories are of my mom in a fur coat and white leather Italian boots, that unmistakable, I'm Italian, but I'm from New York vibe. My mom gave me my first pair of red pointed shoes not too long after she assumed the title bridal business owner. So I designed a pair of red pointed kitten heels called Anne Marie to name them after her. My mother grew up with her cousin Giovanna, who was known to be the tough and beautiful rebel beating heart of the family. She wore a biker jacket and black leather shoes with white walls. And so a Tarantate sneaker was made in tribute to her, with black leather and a bold gold metal chain on the back. I thought about women like Sophia Loren, too, how she used bold, sensual fashion, especially animal prints, as a weapon of glamour, rebellion, and self-possession. One of Tarantate Shoes' kitten heels is called Loren, a luxurious leopard print tribute for her fearless embodiment. Because this isn't about dressing for the male gaze. This is about power dressing for our own pleasure as women. I also created a luxury sandal slide with a chunky heel and a gold square frame, as if to say, this woman wearing these shoes is a work of art. This sandal is named Don Rita, a tribute to Rita Atria, the young Sicilian woman who bravely defied the mafia after her father and brother, both connected to organized crime, were murdered. At just 17 years old, Rita broke the code of silence that ruled her small town, becoming a key witness for anti-mafia prosecutors and offering crucial testimony about mafia operations in Sicily. Her refusal to stay silent and her courage lives on as a reminder that true rebellion often wears elegance like armor. There's another design that I created after my mom's cousin, Amy. In Italian, her name is Amelia. When she was young and being courted by her lover, she wore her hair in a beehive, and according to my mother, was very 60s, 70s sexy. Her shoe is called Amelia Innamorata, or Amelia in Love. It's a rounded high heel in a white and brown saddle shoe. It is a bold tribute to love in one of the biggest eras of love in history. Every design is poetic and comes with a story. The Tarantate shoe line is created as an activation. Yes, there are simple signature pieces like a plain black military boot called Masia, made for my goth girls who want something to ground their outfits while other parts take center stage. But at the heart of this line, it is all about bold, unapologetic expression. Every piece is designed to empower erotic expression in all forms, casual, militant, or overtly sexual. For neurodivergent women, reclaiming sensuality is not a luxury. It is a radical act. In a world that often desexualizes, flattens, and erases us, sensual embodiment is how we come home to ourselves. Pole dance, burlesque, the erotic arts have been critical on my path. If you've been with me for a while, you know about my taboo embodiment intensive called the Whore Crawl, where we combine shadow work with whore archetype work, where we also educate on the difference between sex worker and stripper cultural appreciation versus cultural appropriation. That's why Tarantate Shoes donates 10% of profits to sex work decriminalization, because the labor, embodiment, and artistry of sex workers deserve dignity, safety, and respect. Sex work is work. Sex trafficking and sex work are different issues, and we need to stop conflating them. Empowerment is about choice. It's about exercising choice and using your voice. The choice to say yes, the choice to say no, the choice to sell your art, your beauty, your designs, your labor on your terms. And now, with that, I am honored to introduce the flagship design, Noctis. If Noctis performs well during her limited edition run, we will start producing the next one of almost 50 designs. Noctis is matte black leather, scarlet red interior peekabooing out from the sides of your ankles, gold stiletto heel, midnight power embodied. The first sale, a woman showed this stiletto boot to her partner, and he threw down his credit card. They are luxury priced at $229. They are handmade in La Marche, Italy, and again, 10% of the profits support sex worker rights. It takes a little bit of time to get to you when you order because each pair is custom made, which is more sustainable because we never overproduce. You can visit the website at tarantate.com. You can find the website in the show notes. Or if you'd like to pre-order something special, you can email at tarantateshoes@gmail.com. Now, my queens, I will leave you with this. Your ADHD brilliance, your tangled process, your wildness, your sensual power, they are not your obstacles. They are your art. They are your business strategy. They are your birthright. Play big. Unmask yourself. Move the way your body demands. Create the life your soul knows is yours. Until next time, my loves. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Play Big Queen podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. As always, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds, take what nourished you, keep what resonated for you, and leave the rest, because ultimately, you know best. This episode is over until next time, but we can keep this thing going. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, scroll to the bottom where it says join our community, and get on the email list to get all the juicy details about all my offerings and where Play Big Queens play together online, on social media, and in person. We've got a tight community of women claiming their boldest desires, celebrating wins, playing all out, fiercely standing for each other, and going higher together. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, put in your email address, and confirm your subscription. Once you're in, you'll get all the juicy guides, tips, and inspirations, and you get notified first about all the offers we have for all the big stuff we're doing over here. Go to xxxkatebailey.com to stay in the loop. That's xxxkatebailey.com. If you like what you heard in this podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you got something from this, I would appreciate some reviews and ratings. When you take the time to review the podcast, it helps our podcast get out to more women who need it. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and Spotify and show Play Big Queen some love. Also, I want you to know that my door is always open and I will always make space for you to be heard and to honor your experience. The views expressed in this podcast are through the lens of my personal identity and my own lived experience. I am a European mix, Mediterranean mutt who is an Italian, Sicilian, cis heterosexual woman born in New York, experiencing the world in a white body as a multiply neurodivergent who lives in a neurodiverse and racially blended family. And like everyone else, my one single perspective comes with its own limitations. I have done personal and professional work around anti-racism, diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. I am not a therapist or doctor, and any coaching or advice cannot take the place of professional medical, mental health, or healing help. However, that being said, what happens in my work is often a very powerful, additional, supplemental, or alternative way to heal around identity work, mindset, and emotional wellness. Although I am not a licensed therapist, it is worth noting that in addition to being a mentor, I am trained and certified in emergency medicine and response. I have rendered care to over 20,000 patients in the course of my career. I have taught over 15,000 students, many of which had learning disabilities that were undiagnosed and came from diverse cultural backgrounds. I was also a private health college adjunct professor who was responsible for training medical professionals on how to respond to trauma and behavioral emergencies. If you approach me with any concern, you will be met with professionalism, compassion, tact, understanding, support, and a readiness and a willingness to advocate for your needs. That being said, sometimes I just get it wrong. I am a human being on my own growth journey after all. When I mess up, I'm always available for a courageous and crucial conversation that makes way for growth and healing. Your experience and voice matters to me. I sincerely welcome any feedback you feel called to share. You can email your comments or concerns to info@playbigqueen.com, knowing that I am open to having any and all crucial conversations needed. Okay, remember, you are brilliant. Celebrate yourself, value your own unique way, and honor your own timing, because you can totally create a life and business that feels good and is successful on your terms. Remember to release expectations of what you think your play big process should look like, and be willing to do the work that needs to be done to play big. But most of all, when you come face to face with your boldest desires, remember to trust yourself and play big, queen. Hi, queen. I see you're in it for the long game. If you reach this part of the podcast episode, it means you're interested in learning more about my work, my values, my mission, and my community. So let's go deeper together. I am here to activate neurodivergent women to play bigger and to show you that you are so capable of doing big things, and that if you value your own unique way and honor your own timing, you will learn to receive your boldest desires and so much more. In my world, what makes you different is valued, celebrated, honored, and welcome. I welcome all who identify as female and non-binary folk in my Play Big Queens community. We believe in and support LGBTQIA+2S, Black Lives Matter, women's and pro-choice rights, and obviously intersectional identities, including disabilities, neurodivergence, and religious beliefs. Personally, I am pro-sex worker rights, pro-Palestinian liberation, against Islamophobia, and against anti-Semitism, and I'm also against any cult-like religions that use beliefs as an excuse to indoctrinate people into abusive, autocratic systems. Like many neurodivergent people, we have big hearts and a strong sense of social justice around here. You are encouraged to stay and play in our Play Big Queen community if you share these values. For those who find the word queen does not resonate, perhaps because of imperial associations, the Play Big self archetype can take any form, and the invitation and activation remains the same. To learn to embody your Play Big self, to operate from love instead of fear, to go on a play big journey in community because you know that no play big queen can truly play big alone. To decide to cultivate the courage to use your voice, unmask, reclaim, embrace, and embody your brilliance, and create a life and business that works with the unique way that you work. Through this work, you will come to know the truth of your brilliance deeply And as you come to know your authentic self, more and more will begin to open up for you. Knowing your unique brilliance will lead to great success and true belonging. In this world, we take the pressure off and learn to step off the traditional path so you can blaze your own trail. My mission is to get you motivated, inspired, and equipped to get into massive action and go on your very own Play Big journey. My mission is to empower at least 10,000 women to fully step into their Play Big self by offering healing, transformative, inclusive, and neurodiverse affirming coaching and content. Through innovative coaching programs, courses, and masterclasses, we provide the tools, support, sustainability, and community needed to help each woman embrace her unique path to confidence, success, and meaningful impact. If just 10,000 women with invisible disabilities and their allies were empowered with neurodiverse affirming and inclusive communication to express their unique brilliance, step into their authority and autonomy, and lead, the world would experience a profound shift towards inclusivity, innovation, and empathy. These women would break through societal limitations, modeling resilience, creativity, and strength of diversity. Their voices and perspectives, often shaped by unique experiences with challenges and perseverance, would redefine business leadership, inspire systemic change, and create spaces where diverse ways of thinking are not just accepted, but celebrated. Industries and communities would become more accessible and inclusive with practices that honor varied ways of working, communicating, and achieving. This change would ripple into every area of life and society. Workplaces would become more adaptable, offering a culture of respect for individual strengths. Healthcare and education systems would improve, centering accessibility and compassion in their approaches, and policies would evolve to better support those with invisible challenges, benefiting society as a whole. So many women with so much potential are shrinking in the face of their own brilliance, just sitting on the sidelines, waiting for permission instead of getting in the game. The activation of the latent potential in these women, their empowerment, making them visible, would inspire others, reduce stigma around invisible disabilities, and encourage everyone to lead authentically. Their successes will light the way for countless more women to rise, creating a culture of true diversity where every person feels valued, included, and emboldened to contribute their brilliance and lead with it. If you know you are ready for more clarity, confidence, and you want to embody your Play Big self and be supported around creating the big vision for your life and business, then send me an email at info@playbigqueen.com telling me why this work is so important for you, and we can explore opportunities to work together and make your Play Big dreams a reality.